Good evening and welcome to Beyond the Politics, a regular examination of the events happening right here in the Quinte region and the people who work so hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. I'm your host, Paul Martin. Joining me, my regular co-host, columnist for the Belleville Intelligencer, Colin Mackay.
Thanks, Paul.
And our very special guest, CEO of the Belleville Chamber of Commerce, Jill Raycroft.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, you are no stranger, not possibly to the studio in a previous incarnation, but also to just being on the air here at your TV as well. So before we go any further, always get the plugs in first.
Yes,
so
the Chamber Chat.
Yeah,
the Chamber Chat with Jill Raycroft. It's our opportunity to refer to the things that we do best. We connect, we represent, and we share at the Chamber. And so each half-hour segment is comprised of 3 little clips about connecting what we're doing in the community, representing what we're doing at the advocacy level with regard to government and politics, and you know that well. And then, of course, the sharing piece where we share stories of our members.
Now, you even had Todd Smith on before we did.
Yes, we do, because advocacy is a huge part of the role of the Chamber, and it's often the one that people don't recognize us really being important for. There are two types of chambers. We had this conversation not long ago about the idea that you can either be a 3P chamber or a 3C chamber. And the 3Ps are your parades, pageantries, and parties. And that's what everybody kind of thinks we are. But truly, the 3C is the connecting or the convening, the championing, and the cheerleading kind of thing. So that's really where we fit, and the advocacy role is a big part of why we exist. That is the mandate of the Chamber.
Well, and we're going to talk about both parts of that, the obvious part and the less obvious, but perhaps more influential part. But first, talk about the Chamber itself. Now, for people who aren't familiar with it, the Belleville Chamber of Commerce is actually very old and is one of the older chambers in the country.
Yes, so it was established as the Board of Trade. So there are still some chambers that refer to themselves as the Board of Trade, but we are an entity or a corporation underneath the Board of Trade Act. So we don't fit as a normal nonprofit. We don't fit under certain rules that everybody else kind of understands, though we operate in a nonprofit manner. So we don't make profit, as kind of that might seem counterintuitive to being a Chamber of Commerce, but we don't make money. But we do work to help businesses make money. And the purpose behind that is to advocate on behalf of business when things like a pandemic happen and they have no revenue. So the last year and a half have been a perfect opportunity for us to really sink our teeth into an issue for which the government was supportive and sympathetic. Not always are people sympathetic to the needs of business because they think at the end of the day, the person who profits is the individual behind the business.
So could you give a small example of what that might entail for maybe just pick a business and how that sort of would work with the government?
So if you weren't able to open your doors because you're a restaurant or you're a gym or you had, like there are some businesses that did well, don't get me wrong.
Or a hair salon.
A hair salon, exactly. Any personal service, anything that involved dining, fitness, I can go on, dance studios, things that were really important to, and I think what the other piece is that there's an individual behind all of that they depend on that business and the customers that they serve to pay their rent, their overhead, their hydro, their heat, their taxes, forget their salary and the salaries of all their employees. So when you have something like the CEBA, which was the Canadian, the emergency benefit.
The CERB?
Yeah, well no, the CERB is different. CERB is what employees got if they weren't able to work.
So this is for the businesses?
Yeah, so the businesses was a CEBA loan, and it was a $40,000 loan that you applied for. Basically, you just had to identify that you had a payroll over a certain amount of money and your income had dropped from, the years previous. And as long as you could kind of attest to that, you didn't even have to prove it. If you could attest to that, then you got $40,000. If you can pay 30 of that $40,000 back by the end of next December, you get $10,000 back.
So they'll give you a $10,000 grant, basically?
Basically, yes. So in the beginning, though, that was only for people who had salaried employees or had a payroll of a certain amount.
Did it have to have 20 or more employees, or am I thinking of something different?
No, it was an amount that you paid in wages. So you had to have, I think, a minimum of $40,000 a year payroll. If you were a sole entrepreneur and you didn't pay yourself a wage through your business, you were just automatically disqualified. So what they did instead then is they created a second stream. And this was after a lot of pushback. I think one of the conversations we had in the very beginning with the federal government, the comment from their group was, we've cast the net far. And we said, yes, it's wide, but so are the holes. So you need tighter holes. And so too many people were following through. And every week we were in conversation with both the provincial and the federal government. And each of them have a different role to play. The provincial government clearly was involved with the reopening and closing, but the federal government was responsible for the funding piece that came into play. So they were very different conversations that we had on a regular basis. And it was always trying to emphasize the need for the small one-off businesses that really couldn't qualify for anything.
So basically you're talking about the micro businesses, sort of?
Yes and no, because there were things that in large businesses, like, so for example, your manufacturers though still needed to keep things coming through. So advocating to keep the borders open for like necessary raw materials, although those things was also really important. So on every level we were talking. So obviously the bigger fish get fixed or are managed easier because their problems are more obvious, I guess, if that's fair. So the obvious problems were addressed very quickly. The less obvious problems were the smaller ones that were falling through the cracks. And so that just happened. But in the meantime, we have Market in the Park coming on September 12th. And then we are doing the Lions virtual concert starting tomorrow night, August 5th. They'll be broadcast on the Belleville Chamber's YouTube channel, shared through Facebook. Your TV will also be broadcasting them as well. They've helped us with the production. But the Empire Theatre was a huge partner this year as well. So the Lions Club, so I think there are 14 concerts in total. 3 of the bands that we had scheduled to have for Waterfront last year that we had paid a deposit on, and we needed to kind of come good with that. So they came to record virtually this year. So they did that, and we've got some great musical lineup coming up on
Is
that.
it too early to talk about the Christmas parade? Are you going to have it at night, or is it way too early to talk because of COVID?
A couple things to know about the Christmas parade is that it's on Sunday night for a reason, and it's at night for a reason. So it's on Sundays and it's in the evening because the evening is just prettier with the lights, and it's on Sundays because that's when the police can manage to help us the best. Fridays and Saturday nights in December are just busy. So that's kind of how we work very closely with the Belleville Police Service for that event, and so we have to make sure that they're on board to help us and support us for that.
Challenges coming, but thank you for teasing some of those events. And so the concert specifically, so you said it's a YouTube channel. How do they find that?
So Belleville Chamber of Commerce has a YouTube channel, so just search us on YouTube, and they will start airing August 5th, and we'll leave them up for a couple of days, and then there will be a new concert. And Your TV will be broadcasting them, so if you're a subscriber, which you are, if you're watching tonight, you'll be able to see them. You'll watch their schedule to see when they're being played. And through Facebook, we'll be, advertising it through that as well. And I'm trying to think of the Belleville Lions Club, for sure. I mean, that's definitely one way to find them as well. Their website will have information. And keep in mind that it really is a fundraiser for them. They generally raise a lot of money and they contribute so much to the community. This is an opportunity for sure to support that.
Okay. And that will be Thursdays and Sundays?
Thursdays and Sundays starting tomorrow.
Okay.
And then Lions Live, I just want to mention, September 19th, we think we're going to be live in the park. So join us then.
All right.
And buskers are going to show up starting next weekend. We'll have buskers in the park on Sundays. So if you're going down to the pop-ups, if it's kind of a slow day, there will be a little busker kind of kicking around. So
there's a lot more to come.
Sorry.
And we'll talk about the advocacy aspect of it. We're here with Jill Raycroft from the Belleville Chamber of Commerce. This is Beyond the Politics.